Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Just wanted to make a quick video in reference to all these commercials that you keep seeing. I'm sure that are coming up in your feed, especially. They're advertising some boot camp or some course, and it'll be like, become a software engineer, become a cybersecurity specialist in 90 days. You will not be a cybersecurity specialist in 90 days. In fact, outside of a couple thousand hours of study and practice, outside of a 6 to 12 month engagement, you cannot step foot into even the lowest bars, the lowest realms of this industry. For even the simplest jobs like basic web development, by the way, a job that functionally doesn't exist anymore, there are still people doing web development, but there's almost nobody being hired as just like a junior front-end React developer. That's right on the cusp of not existing anymore because of AI and because of the insane layoffs in the industry. The idea that you can have marketable value with only one small, specific, generalized skill is just not good enough anymore. But it is a blatant lie. First of all, cybersecurity is a level of responsibility that they would never, no matter what the circumstances, they would never trust somebody without years of experience in cybersecurity. So the notion that you can go from nothing to working in cybersecurity in 3 months is just a bold-faced lie. But 3 months isn't even enough time to get a React job, assuming that those jobs still existed, assuming this was like, whatever, 2015, whenever React jobs were really popular. If you want to learn how to code for a personal reason, like you have a website that you want to deploy, 3 months is actually pretty reasonable. If you tell yourself that you're going to spend 3 months getting a basic understanding of front end, basic understanding of back end, and then heavily relying on ChatGPT, you can go from nothing to deploying a website. Absolutely. If you have a personal project, go for it. But this notion that, well, if you just follow these specific steps, you can skip to the front of the line. Now, I don't like comparing things to four-year degrees because I think there's very few subjects that sincerely require 4 years of real study. Most of the American college experience is wasting time relatively intentionally. There's this attitude, and there certainly was when I was a student, that college students are supposed to be wasting their time. They're supposed to be fucking off and drinking and doing drugs and partying, and they're supposed to be exploring themselves in some metaphysical way. What if, and I know that this is a wild suggestion, what if your job was to simply work your ass off? What if your job as a student was to put in 15-hour days for the full 4 years you were there? However, if that was the paradigm, you would no longer need these 4-year degrees. If you're putting in 15 hours a day, most of these degrees can be finished in 2 years, or maybe even less. When I was a student, every one of my peers who didn't know what they wanted to do, or they just had low work ethic, or they had no creativity, or they knew that they had to just pick a major, otherwise their parents were going to take them out of college, or some other related reason like this, they all picked business. And that's why, frankly, I think business degrees are worthless, because everybody that I've ever met that picked a business degree in my generation did so because they had no other plan. And they were just like, fuck it, I'm at college, I might as well pick a degree, I'll just pick business. And what does business mean? It's intentionally vague. Business means drink all week and then write one paper 20 minutes before it's due. Get a B+ on that paper and then go back to drinking. That's what I've observed from business degrees. And then don't get me started on MBAs. I'm convinced that almost everybody who has an MBA just did it because, once again, they weren't sure where they should go next, what they should do next. So they're like, fuck it, let's get a master's. But anyway, do not be lured in by these courses. Do not be lured in by boot camps. I made the mistake of going to a boot camp. I could have learned everything I learned from YouTube courses, and I did essentially. In the end, the value that I got out of the boot camp was meeting a couple hundred other students, a dozen or so I became friends with. A couple of them became good enough friends with me that when they got a job, they recommended me. And that's how I got my first job in the industry. But the only value there is the network. And so look at Discord, look at Reddit, look at your local environment. If you have like a university near you, go meet the software students there. Build up a network so that when someone gets a job, they can hire you. And when you get a job, you can recommend other people. But anybody who tells you that you can go from nothing to an industry professional pulling down a salary, 99% of the time, they're lying. There's probably a higher rate of success in dick pills. The pills that you buy at 2:00 in the morning from an infomercial. Probably more of those succeed in giving guys giant dicks than people who spend 60 days studying software, especially something like cybersecurity, and then get to the end of it and get a job. It's completely absurd. Especially because there's such a glut of extra developers in the industry right now. There's hundreds of thousands. I saw a statistic a little while ago. I forget where they got the data from, so I might be 100% wrong. Let's just take this as wild speculation. But it was something along the lines of nearly 100% of US-based developers have experienced at least one layoff in the last 4 years. Nearly 100%. And you're seeing an increase in what appears to be demand for developers, but that's actually part-time work or contract work, and you're seeing a radical decrease in full-time employment, which is what you'd expect in an economy where I just don't think the economy can support the amount of developers that it got. The whole learn to code thing. And, I know that when I was a kid, trades were demonized. You were considered, it was like you were accepting failure. The same thing as being a teacher, really. If you wanted to study and become a teacher, people just treated you like you were a failure from day one. You were like willfully accepting failure. That's what people's attitude was. And now, at least the tradesmen are getting the last laugh. Going into, let's say, being an electrician or a plumber 10 years ago, long enough ago so that you'd be fully licensed, you'd be either a master or working to become a master, you're making crazy money, especially if you're working alone. And I don't know who wouldn't, especially if you're in a nice area and you don't have to worry about your utility truck getting robbed. If you live in an affluent area, I don't understand why you wouldn't go out alone. I mean, if you're an electrician working on your own or a plumber working on your own, what are you billing them like 5 times more than you would if you were an hourly employee working for some electrical company? Anyway, I don't know. I've never been in the trades like that, but they're killing it today. It's never been better for them. Teaching is awful, and it has been for my entire generation. I would never be a teacher in the United States. But as far as software goes, it's something that if you want a job in the industry, you're looking at a barrier to entry of a couple thousand hours if you're above average intelligence, probably many thousands of hours if you're an average person. And then maybe if you're like a genius, I've met guys who read a piece of documentation and then they've just got it forever. They'll read a documentation, a little snippet, and 6 months later, they and I are pair programming on some project, and we both run into an issue, and the guy goes, eureka, I remember from the documentation that said to do this, this, and this, and it just works. And I'm like, how did you remember that? I have to Google pretty much everything. So yeah, if you have an exceptional memory, a lot of this stuff is going to be easier. And if you're really good at math, it will be easier. But just out of hand disregard all the people who are trying to sell you courses, sell you boot camps, sell you certifications. They are worthless. We're living in an environment where I've met multiple people with CS bachelor's and CS master's degrees who are unemployed. So if you think that certification from some sketchy YouTube university is going to be what distinguishes you and gets you hired, you're very much mistaken. Anyway, That's effectively all I wanted to say on this matter. Seeking Squalor, Toilet Umbrellas and Champagne Chandeliers. Buy my book on Amazon and subscribe. Almost nobody is subscribed. Subscribe. Actually, the analytics are crazy. Some videos it's like 99% not subscribed. Other videos it's like 65% subscribed. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.